started. So let's do a quick review of what we did yesterday. So till yesterday, we were basically able to configure the Cloud Connector service through which we were able to identify the infrastructure that we have in our Microsoft Azure lab environment. And we also looked at various other aspects with respect to configuration, with respect to management of that service, which is to, which is to which is to running the cloud connector scan, which is to updating the configuration, polling period, uh, adding more subscriptions, or modifying the authentication key. All that we basically looked at. And then we talked about running a cloud perimeter scan. So perimeter scan basically means that any publicly exposed EC2 instance or Azure instance or Oracle compute instance, any virtual machine. So first of all, perimeter scan would only include the virtual machine. So it would basically run a perimeter scan on that virtual machine, which is discovered by the connector. And the perimeter scan would use Qualys external scanner to identify any vulnerability from the networking perspective, open ports on that virtual machine. So we can run perimeter scan, or we can configure, or we can schedule. We can run on-demand perimeter scan, or we can configure scheduled, perimeter scan, external scans using Cloud Connector. And you cannot run more than, I'm saying you cannot run perimeter scan, or you cannot schedule perimeter scan twice within 4 hours of duration. It has to be more than 4 hours. So typically when you schedule a scan, you typically schedule it once in a day, which is okay. Then limitations of perimeter scan was there, that it only applicable for publicly exposed assets. The perimeter scan would only, sometimes the perimeter scan is interrupted by Azure, Azure Security Services, which is DDoS service, because that service may consider that scan request as a brute force attack, because the scan request would also try to connect to the VM, or it may consider that as a DDoS attack. So it may block the perimeter scan, and there is a way to get this sorted out. However, this is one of the limitation. Then existing security software, which is there on the which is there on the instance, which is EDR software, next generation firewall that you have deployed, host-based firewall or EDR solution, it may also affect perimeter scan. It may also interrupt or stop the perimeter scan. A perimeter scan cannot scan any installed software application on the in-scope asset. So these are the limitations. And because of these limitations, we basically needed another option in Qualys, using which we can run a scan that can basically provide us network related vulnerability of an asset, as well as operating system related vulnerabilities, as well as any software and application which is installed on the asset. For that, we talked about scanner appliance. So we have physical scanner appliance, virtual scanner appliance. As I suggested yesterday, that physical scanner appliance are typically not used anymore. Only old customers of Qualys, they continue to use physical scanner appliance. All new customers are primarily using either cloud agents or virtual scanner appliance. So we focused on virtual scanner appliance, wherein we deployed a virtual scanner appliance in Azure, and you all did that lab. You all have virtual scanner appliance up and running now. So please go ahead and turn on your virtual scanner appliance as well as your virtual machines, because we are going to perform a lot of scanning activities today. So we did that lab, and then and that's how we spent the entire day yesterday. Now we are going to perform a couple of scans today. So now that we have our infrastructure built and set up, from the virtual scanner appliance perspective, we'll see what all configurations we need to do with respect to the virtual scanner appliance, and how do we leverage this virtual scanner appliance to perform vulnerability scans on our assets that has been discovered by virtual scanner appliance or cloud connector. That's what we are going to do for today. So let's just go ahead and turn on your respective virtual machines as well as the scanner appliance. Okay. So I have also added in the session transcript some external URLs. Now, as I said, that your CSP's perimeter firewall or DDoS service may interrupt perimeter scan. So in that case, how do you run a successful perimeter scan? For that, you basically need to whitelist Qualys external IP addresses, IP address ranges in your perimeter network, in your perimeter firewall. And you also need to register, you also need to share the same with Microsoft. So if Microsoft is blocking any traffic from Qualys to your respective directory, to your respective account or subscription, Microsoft can whitelist it. And you also need to share the same IP ranges with your network security team so that they can whitelist those IP ranges in your perimeter firewall, DMZ firewall, whatever you call it. So this article basically contains those ranges information. So I put this here. And where exactly do you get that information related to your account? I'll tell you the simplest way to find that information. Just log into your Qualys account and let me know once you're logged in. Okay, so over here, where you see your username, on the top right corner where you see your username or your name, click there. No, not here. Uh, Over here, help. Click on help and then click on about in the drop down. Yeah, over here you see the IP addresses. So click on help and click on about. And here you see everything related to your account. So you need to, once again, you need to click on help and then you need to click on, you can also click on account info. No, not here. Yep, over there only. Earlier, they also would provide the information here, but now they have moved it to help about. So when you click on help about, you will basically see all the modules that has been enabled in your account. For example, I have all of these modules which are active in my account. Then I see the information about the versions that I'm using. This is the scanner version that I'm using. These are the vulnerability signatures, West Engine, online help, all that. And then this is my security operations center. These are my external scanners are listed for West scanning only. These are my scanner appliances. And you can see the IP addresses here. All these public IPs, you also see IPv6 also. So if you don't use IPv6, don't bother about it. All these public IPs, you will need to whitelist these public IPs in your network perimeter firewall, as well as if Azure is blocking any request from these public IPs, you also need to submit a technical support request with Azure and get these public IP whitelisted for your account. So once you whitelist these public IPs are basically for external scanners. So if you're running a perimeter scan from an external scanner, and if that perimeter scan says host not alive, or if it says it could not find any host, it means either Azure is blocking it, or your network firewall is blocking it, or any firewall which is front-ending that instance is basically blocking the traffic. That is why the scan is not running, right? So this is basically for external scanners. Similarly, you have for your virtual scanner appliance also. So you also see virtual scanner appliance FQDN. You also see IP addresses that virtual scanner appliances are using. So you also need to whitelist these IP addresses in your network so that your virtual scanner appliance can run authenticated scans. So these are the IPs that you need to whitelist. Now, virtual scanner appliance IPs you can also get from virtual scanner appliance itself. For example, if I go to scans, appliances, if I click on my virtual scanner appliance, I will see its IP address also in the properties action info. When settings, Over here, it's the IP address 168.63.129.16. So that's the IP address for the scanner appliance. And you also see a private IP address of the scanner appliance because scanner appliance is part of your internal network. It is deployed as a virtual machine in your internal network. So you can also find the IP address from here for the scanner appliance. But for all external scanner appliances which are applicable to your account, you need to click on help and then click about, and you see that information here. These are all external scanner appliance IP addresses. Does that make sense, guys? Alex, Prashant, Shiva?
Yes.
Okay. So now you know the reason why when we were running perimeter scan, why it was not working, why it was showing as host not alive, because we have not added these IP addresses into our network firewall. So what we can do, since we are not using a network firewall, but on a virtual machine or any Windows, on any Windows client and server operating system, you have Windows Defender firewall. And that firewall basically front-ending all the traffic that comes to your virtual machine. So even if your external scanners are able to reach to your virtual machine, the firewall is blocking the traffic, right? So what we need to do, there are two things that we can do. First, we can either disable the firewall. Now in a production environment, what will happen? See, there are two things here that you need to understand. One is training environment, the other is how it happens in the production environment. So production environment, in the production environment, you have a DMZ firewall. I can say DMZ or perimeter firewall. And this DMZ and perimeter firewall is front-ending all the traffic which is inbound from internet. Any traffic that comes from outside of your local area network, even if it is coming from another office of yours which is situated in another country or another city, even though that firewall is front-ending the traffic. It all depends how you have configured the routing. Sometimes we configure the routing that every traffic that is outside of the LAN has to go through the firewall, and sometimes you configure routing that only external traffic which is from the internet, public internet, should be filtered through the firewall. So depending on what you've configured. So you have a DMZ perimeter firewall, then you have a host firewall. Host firewall basically means a firewall which is deployed at the system. When I say system, it basically means OS. It could be a virtual machine. It could be a physical server also. So you have host firewall. These are two firewalls. Now in a production environment, what they do, most of the companies, instead of managing host firewall individually, what they do, they manage it through EDR, which is endpoint detection and response. So an EDR is an advanced malware service, advanced firewall malware spyware service. And with this EDR service, they basically manage all of it. So the examples of EDR, if you want to know, is in Microsoft Word, it is Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. You have CrowdStrike. I'm just talking about some leading EDR solutions. So Defender for Endpoint, CrowdStrike, Sentinel.
Cortex
You have,
XDR.
yeah, Cortex is also there. Cortex XDR is there. So these are the EDR solutions. So what basically happens, instead of managing the firewall at the host, see, there can be 100 systems, 1,000 systems, 10,000 systems, or 100,000 systems, or more than that in an environment. It includes both server and client operating system. There could be n number of systems, which includes employee devices, application servers, and they all would have a firewall, right? Except when they are not running Windows. If they are Linux systems, then it's a different story. But any organization would have 70% of the instances running on Windows. That's what my experience has been. Now, those 70% of instances has a host firewall, which is Windows Defender. So instead of configuring that firewall for each and every instant manually, what we do, we basically use a solution which is EDR, which is Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, CrowdStrike, Sentinel-1, Cortex. And with this solution in place, we manage the firewall from this solution. So we basically disable the host firewall, or host firewall is managed by this solution. So what you need to do in a production environment, if you want to run a scan, whether it's a perimeter scan or internal scan, and if you see that the solution is getting, the scan is, scan is getting interrupted, there are, connectivity issues, or it is not able to find the VMs. What you need to do here, you just need to make sure that you whitelist the solution in DMZ, as well as you whitelist the solution either in the host firewall to all the hosts one after another, or you are using an EDR solution through which you are doing it. This is what we need to do, right? So depending on the configuration, you will do this thing. Once you're done with it, then you will be able to run the scan without any challenge, right? Now, this is your production environment. Obviously, we don't have access to a production environment, but not everything will be done by yourself. In a production environment, you have multiple teams having their own roles and responsibilities. As a Qualys professional, a Qualys vulnerability management professional, all you need to know is your Qualys system requirements, that what will make my solution work effectively. So that's exactly what I'm sharing with you. Now, who will do these configuration? That I will leave to how your environment is configured. So that's your production environment. Let's understand the lab environment configuration. Now, when it comes to the lab environment, in lab environment, we don't have a DMZ and perimeter firewall. In Azure, we don't have this solution. We don't have EDR also. What we have is host firewall system. This is what we have, right? So what are we going to do? We are going to disable this firewall, or we are going to create an inbound rule in the firewall, whitelisting all public IPs of our external scanners so that it would not block any traffic from those scanners. That's what we are going to do. And once we are done with this, then you will realize that your perimeter scans will work perfectly fine. They will be able to discover the virtual machines based on the asset tags or IP ranges that you provide in the scan, and they will be able to provide scan for vulnerabilities up to certain extent, which is the limitation of perimeter scan. Is everyone with me on this? Great. So let's go ahead and do this activity. Let's connect to your VM one by one. Let's log into your VM and then disable the firewall. So I'll log into my VM and I'll disable the firewall. So I log into my Windows 10 VM. How can I log into this VM? There are multiple ways. I can either download the RDP file of this VM on my system like this. I can hit connect and download the RDP file on my system. That's one way of doing it. And once the file is downloaded, I just need to double click on the file and it will ask me for the credentials. Since I've downloaded the file, it would already have username embedded into it. All I need to type is password, right? That's one way of doing it. The other way of connecting is you copy the public IP, open remote desktop protocol, remote desktop connection window, and here paste the public IP and hit connect. So once you do that, obviously it would not know the username. So you would need to click on more choices, use a different account, and type the username and password. That's what you need to do. And then you would have remote of your virtual machine. So I've got the remote of my virtual machine, right? So once you have got the remote, then I also asked you to deploy some solutions on this virtual machine, some applications on this virtual machine so that Qualys can identify vulnerabilities. There are a lot of known vulnerabilities for browsers, which is Mozilla Firefox, Google Chrome, a lot of known vulnerabilities for applications. Since we don't have applications, we have basically installed VLC Media Player, Mozilla Fire, TeamViewer, Mozilla Firefox. How do we uh, how do we navigate to the firewall? At the bottom, you see search. Here you can type firewall. When you type firewall, you will need to click on Windows Defender Firewall, this option, or you can go to Control Panel, and in the Control Panel, you can navigate to firewall. So once you are in the firewall, then you will see the firewall is on. Click on both. There is an option to your left that says turn Windows Firewall on and off. I've already turned it off. That's the reason. But in your case, it is turned on. You need to check the radio button, the second radio button, which is turn off Windows Defender Firewall for both public and private network. Why are we disabling it for both public and private network? We are disabling it for public so that my external perimeter scan can run, and we are disabling it for private so that my internal scan can run through Virtual Scanner Appliance. That's the reason we are disabling both the firewalls. Am I making sense, Alex, Vipin, Anandapa?
Yes, so we've done it.
Okay, great. So let's disable this firewall. On all the three VMs, you need to disable the firewall. Now, other than disabling the firewall, there will be one more setting that you need to do, which is file and printer sharing. Because other than running a perimeter scan, you also want to run authenticated scan. For authenticated scan, file and printer sharing must be enabled on the system, right? So after you disable the firewall, then you on the same window, on the Windows Defender Firewall itself, you will need to click on allow an app or feature through Windows Defender Firewall. So here you need to click on allow an app or feature. And over here, when it opens all the app and features, you need to scroll it down and search for file and printer sharing. These two features, file and printer sharing over SMB Direct and file and printer sharing. You need to make sure that file and printer sharing is enabled for both public and private network so that you can run authenticated scans. So we need to enable both file and printer sharing for public and private network. And there is one more capability that we need to enable, because after we run the scan, we would also do some remediations. So for remediation, we need to enable the setting, which is WMI, Windows Management Instrumentation. This setting, I'm highlighting it. Through WMI, a remote application can actually run a remote script on your system that will help you to do the patching, that will help you to do the vulnerability remediation. So instead of doing this setting later on, since we are on this window, I'm doing that right away. So three settings we need to do. File and printer sharing. You will see two entries for file and printer sharing. You will need to enable both the entries. Both the entries, you need to enable it for public and private. Make sure you check the boxes. And then WMI, Windows Management Instrumentation, for public and private. And you also need to disable turn off the firewall. These three things that you need to do. So I'm writing down these steps here. Turn off Windows Defender Firewall, or create an inbound rule allowing all traffic from external scanner appliance public IP addresses. So either you turn off the firewall or create an inbound rule. That's for second. Second, enable file and printer sharing for authenticated scans via Virtual Scanner Appliance. Third, enable Windows Management Instrumentation for automated vulnerability remediation. These three settings you need to enable. Turn off Windows Defender Firewall or create an inbound rule. I'll also show you how do we create a rule. So whichever you feel is appropriate, you can do that. You will need to navigate to advanced settings, then click on inbound rules, create a new rule. And over here, you can select program, port, predefined, custom, create a custom rule, and then you can select that rule. Program, you can type over here. Port and protocols, you can type over here. Port and protocols, IP addresses, all that you can type here. Scope, you can select. You can type these IP addresses. Over here, you will type all IP addresses. So in the program, you can just, let me put it on the top like this. So you can say all programs, or you can type this specific program, but since it's an external scanner appliance, you will select all programs. Next, then you will select protocol, any, because it supports both TCP IP. So just type any protocol, and then you need to select local ports, remote ports. So you can select, let's say, protocol TCP, and you can select all ports or specific ports, whatever ports. So I will say all ports because my external scanner will scan all the ports, all vulnerable ports on my system. And here you can say protocol any so that it can support TCP, UDP. Then click on next. After that, type all the public IPs of your external scanner appliances in this window. Right? So it says which local IP address does this rule apply to, which remote IP address does this rule apply to. So type all the IP addresses. Next. So this is how you basically need to do. And in the end, you will fill in all the information, provide the name of the rule. So I'm just typing any IP address, let's say. Next. And then allow the connection. Next. And connection should be allowed on domain, private and public network. Next. That's it. Create the name, provide a name to a rule, provide the description, and finish it. So either you do this activity, but then for this activity, you need to identify all the public IPs and put it, or the simple part is to just turn off the firewall. So whichever is appropriate, whichever you feel is comfortable for you, go ahead and do that. Okay. Let me know once this activity is complete. All right. So once you're done, let's go ahead and run a perimeter scan once again. So we ran a perimeter scan yesterday. We will run a perimeter scan once again, and you will see the difference. So on your Qualys portal, you will need to navigate to scans. Then click on scans once again on the scan tab. And then you can run a perimeter scan now. So click on new cloud perimeter scan. Select Microsoft Azure because that's where your connector is. On the scan details, you can select your, you can put the information about this perimeter scan. So I'll just remove that number so that I know this is for today's date. And then you can select the option profile. The vulnerabilities against which you want to run the scan. So I can go with the Qualys recommended option profile. Priority, We can keep it, let's say, medium priority. Then comes target host. On the target host, we will first need to select our connector application. Selected the connector application. Then you will need to add the tags. Perimeter scan cannot be done using IP addresses. It would require tags. So I will click on add tags and I'll select both the tags, Azure resources and Azure, whatever tags are applicable to the instances. So select your tags, then go to scanner, select external scanner because we are running it using external scanner, and then click on review. The moment you will click on review, it will exactly tell you that how many instances it was able to find, how many publicly exposed instances it was able to find, or virtual machines it was able to find that it is going to run the scan for. So you can see asset identified sinks from connector is 4 and asset qualified for scan is 3. Asset submitted to scan is 3. Why it was able to find 4 but it is only running for 3? Because one of those asset is a virtual scanner appliance, and an external connector understands a virtual scanner appliance, so it would never ever include a virtual scanner appliance in the scan. That is the reason my total number of assets are 4, but out of 4, one is virtual scanner appliance, which is excluded, and the remaining 3 are submit qualified for scan and they will be submitted for scan. Once I click on submit scan job, it will only scan for 3 assets. This is the same behavior from yesterday. Nothing has changed here. Is everyone with me on this? Now let's click on submit scan job. So we have submitted the job. Within a couple of seconds, you will start to see it here. If it doesn't appear here, then you can refresh the browser and you will start to see your scan job into the scans view. Okay, now I started to see it. So the scan job is running. We ran a scan job yesterday also. So yesterday, if you click on the job that you ran yesterday, the only difference I'm saying you would notice that the total host alive was 0. Even though your virtual machines were up and running, even though it says host alive 0, because it was not able to reach any of those hosts because the firewall was blocking the communication. But now we are running the perimeter scan once again, and we will see the result of it. It will take a couple of minutes to complete. Since there are 3 hosts, let's say 3 to 4 minutes it will take to complete. So yesterday we also had 3 hosts. It took 34 seconds to complete. So we'll wait for the scan to get completed. All right, do I have any participant whose scan job is finished? Or still running for everyone? Still running? Okay, Anand got some issue. Target no scannable asset match the selected connected details. Or tags and no load balancer DNS were provided. Okay, so you are here. No worries. Please share your screen. Let me quickly fix that part. This is for today or yesterday? What you're showing me?
It is
I
today
have
only.
this.
Click
I
OK.
have the same issue. Yeah.
No, click OK. Close this. Okay. Now click on the one which is for today. The top one. Yeah. Over here. Now click on view summary. Now click on targets. Okay. Over here, 2 targets are there. These are the 2 targets which it basically shows. Now, Anand, can you show me your Azure portal? Azure portal. Yep. Show me your virtual machines. Are they all up and running? Not like that. Yeah, go to virtual machines tab.
Yeah.
Okay, your virtual machines are running, which is good. And you have disabled Windows Firewall on all the virtual machines and enabled file and printer sharing and WMI,
Yes, correct.
right? Okay. So you have 3 virtual machines, but only 2 IPs are shown. And those 2 IPs belongs to, so I don't see your Windows 10 virtual machine IP there,
Correct.
which means your Windows 10 virtual machine does not have a tag because that's tag based scan, right?
Yes, correct.
So can you go to Qualys portal now? Okay, one more thing, guys, that we all forgot. We have 2 firewalls here. Let me just take the control for a moment. Yeah, we have one more firewall in Azure, which is known as Azure Virtual Firewall, which is known as Network Security Group. We almost forgot about it. Azure Virtual Firewall, Network Security Group. So all the traffic that comes to your instance, before it hits your instance, it basically passes through Network Security Group. And after it is allowed by Network Security Group, then it reaches to the host firewall or the firewall which is there at the EDR solution. So this part we basically almost skipped. So let's focus on this part also. So for each virtual machine, you will need to enable the external appliance IPs into the NSG. For example, I'll navigate to one of the virtual machine, Windows 10 Pro. On this virtual machine, under in the middle blade, the vertical blade where you see all the settings, under networking, it says network settings. In network settings, you see network security group. It's a virtual firewall which is applicable in Azure. In all the clouds, you have a virtual firewall. In Azure, you have network security group. In AWS, you have security group. In GCP, you have firewall rules. So there's a virtual firewall in all the clouds. So on this virtual firewall, you also need to whitelist your external scanner appliance IP addresses. Now, either you whitelist those IP addresses or you create a simple allow all rule. So you need to click on create port rule and click on inbound port rule over here. You need to create a rule. So your source is any, source port is any, right? Either you can put instead of any, you can put IP address in the source and type all the IP addresses of external scanner appliances. Now you will not know out of 20-30 scanner appliances, Qualys will use which scanner appliance to scan to run a perimeter scan. So what you need to do, you need to put all the IP addresses, right? So instead of doing this, I can say source any. Source any, source port range star, destination. Destination, any destination to which this virtual firewall is applicable. So right now this virtual firewall is attached to this network interface, which belongs to your VM, which is Qualys Windows 10 Pro. So destination any, service any, and in the destination port range, I will say star. So that Qualys external scanner appliance can scan or can search for vulnerabilities or can scan for all the ports. Destination port star. That's it. And then name will automatically come. You just need to click on add here. This part we almost missed. So my bad on this, that I almost forgot to talk about this part. This is specific to cloud only. In a on-premises network, this is not applicable. So this is one thing that you need to do. Okay, I can have one participant who can share the screen and I can quickly guide, because on my system, I've already done that. All you need to do, just this, create an inbound port rule on this network security group, click on create port rule, click on inbound port rule, and then just The source field should be any, port range should be star, destination any, service custom, and destination port range, just put star here. That's it. Put star, and rest of the settings will remain as it is. And just at the bottom, click add. So that way you will allow all traffic on all the port of this VM from external traffic. Make sense, Alex? Srinivas?
Yes.
Yeah, please do this, and then your host will be discovered for sure. So my perimeter scan finished. And you can see it was able to discover all the hosts. It was able to identify vulnerabilities also. So I'll show this part later on. Let's first complete this activity for all of you. Yes, Vipin.
So this has to be done on each and every machine, right? Each and every
All,
machine.
yeah. So in a production environment, I'm saying it is totally up to the design. Sometimes in a production environment, what they do, they use a common network security group for all production VMs of similar nature. Let's say for all database servers, there's a common security group. For all application server, there's a common security group because their port requirements are common, same. But in our lab environment, we have a separate network security group for each VM. So you need to navigate to each VM, and on each VM network settings, you need to create this inbound port rule. It hardly takes a minute.
Very good.
Right? So for example, navigate to the other VM, which is Qualys Windows 2016. I'm saying your 2016 VM. And navigate to network settings. There click on create port rule and click on inbound port rule and create that port rule. So you are just allowing all the traffic to your VM for the time being so that your scanners can actually communicate with the VM. And you're kind of disabling all the security that comes in between. Either disable it or either create an entries into that.
So in the destination port, you can put in the star, correct? For the destination port range.
Yeah,
Source
star.
any, destination any, service custom.
Yeah. Destination port range should be star, because if you don't put star, then and if you put a specific port number, then external scanner would only be able to scan that port. But you will need to allow all the ports for the scanning. So you need to put star here. The same manner you see on my screen, source is any, source port star,
Yes.
destination any, and then destination port is star. And then at the bottom, just click on hit add for all the three VMs.
Okay, got it.
Done on all the three VMs, guys.
Raghu, still I'm facing same issue.
Please share your screen.
I have the same issue. I've deleted the connector. I have added the connector again. I've run the connector again and so on. I still have this issue. I add the tags everywhere in the connector, everywhere in the assets, whatever is scanned. It sees the machines with tags, but here is not working.
Okay, just give me 1 minute. I'll fix it. IT is all about troubleshooting when things do not go as expected. And when they do not go as expected, that's where you actually learn. If things works smoothly, you don't learn anything. Okay, target resolution, no scannable assets must be selected. Click OK. Let's look at Anand's screen because you may have the same thing. Okay, Anand, show me from the top, cloud information, from the top tab, the first tab. Azure. Next tab, scan details. Okay, Qualys recommended option profile processing priority, which is okay. Next, target host. So you are putting a tag which is Azure, right? Great.
Yeah.
Next tab. Scanner you've selected. Review. Okay, this is where you're getting the error, which means that these VMs do not have Azure tags on it. Azure tag is not there on the assets. So let's click OK. let's go back to your connector. Sorry, let's go back to the asset inventory. So go to the asset inventory module.
Here
Yep,
only,
this
right?
module. Okay. Click on assets on the top, right next to dashboard.
Same, I have the
Now,
tags.
see, the answer is here on the screen. You're putting Azure tag. You're giving Azure tag to the external scanner, but external scanner could not find any host with that tag. And I can see here none of the tag has Azure tag on it, right? This is the answer why you're getting that error. Is it making sense to other participants also?
I have the tags, but it's still error. But if I can share. I can see I have the tags added.
No problem. Alex, I'll come back to you. So this is the first piece of the puzzle, that why Anand is facing this issue. Let's fix it. Anand, let's put the tag Azure.
Shall I click on add tags?
Yeah, you can add tags from here. You can add tags automatically also. Type Azure. If you have a tag with that name, it will appear. Click on add tags and type Azure in the window. Yep. Now select the tag like that. Yep. Add it. Similarly, add it to the other VMs also, whichever you want to scan. Add it to all the VMs. Now you see dual entries for some of the VMs. This is a known issue in the trial. In a production environment, you will never ever see dual entries.
Okay.
So you need to put Azure tag to all the VMs. One VM on the top is left. Okay. Now all the VMs have Azure tag. Great. Now go back to the cloud perimeter scan once again. Go to VMDR. Select priority as high priority. That's okay. Target host. Select the connector. No, first select the connector also. Step by step. Then select the tag. Now go to scanner. Select the scanner, is already selected. Click on review. And see,
Yes.
this was resolved. Okay. So first piece of the puzzle is resolved. There are 4 VMs and it is qualifying for 2 VMs. It is qualifying for 2 VMs. Probably. So it should qualify for 3 VMs basically. It is not qualifying for 1 VM, which basically means on one of the VMs, you still do not have network security group configured.
Yep.
That is the reason.
I'll cross
Yeah.
verify.
Yeah. So now submit the scan job. Okay. Now while the scan job is running, let's go to all those VMs one by one in the Azure portal. Okay. Scanner, you don't need to. This is your virtual scanner, right?
Yeah.
Here you don't need to enable on any port. Okay. Now on this Windows 10. Yes, we are good. Next VM. Just select the next VM. You will see the same window for the next VM also. Same view. Over here. 310, 8. Okay, this is enabled. Next. Okay, for this VM also enabled. Now, why you only got to see 2 VMs? Because you've just made some changes, and right after making changes, you went to the next module. Sometimes you need to give your software some breathing space so that it can navigate the changes from one module to another. That could have been the reason, right?
Okay.
Okay. So from this point of view, configuration is fine. Now, do you still have remote of your virtual machines?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, show me the remote for these virtual machines. Windows 10. Okay, this is go to allow an app or feature through firewall. Show me the setting for file and printer sharing. Okay, file and printer sharing is not enabled. I can see. Yeah, file and printer sharing. See, click on this. You can see this is not enabled. That is another reason. Now go to WMI. It has to be enabled. WMI also. WMI is also not enabled for private. Now click on OK. Great. We are done with this VM. You can go to the next VM. Okay, show me the same setting here. See, it is also the same case here. Did you not check these boxes before?
No, I thought it's only public.
No,
I
we
not
need to do it
verified.
for. See, we are doing this setting for internal scanner also, because when you run the authenticated scan from internal scanner, at that point in time, if this setting is not enabled on private network, internal scanner would not be able to run authenticated scan. So that's the reason I'm doing it in one go. So WMI also.
It's done.
WMI is for both, right? Show me the firewall for this VM. Click OK. Your firewall is off. Great. We are good with this VM. Show me the third VM. Is this the third VM? This is the third, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now show me the applications for this file and printer sharing and the other one. Okay, this is good. And WMI is also, no, WMI is not enabled. It is enabled, right? Great. Click
enabled.
OK. Click OK. Done. I don't see a reason of why your scan should not work, perfectly fine this time. So let's go back to the scan now, where the scan is running. Okay, refresh the screen. You don't see that scan right now. Okay, you can see it is running. Click on this. Okay, so this is running. Go back to the previous scan. The one underneath. Click on view summary. I can see that here. It finished in 42 seconds. Right? 42 seconds was the duration because it did not find any asset. But now the scan which is up and running, which is running at this moment, it has been more than 42 seconds and it is still running, which is a positive sign.
Yeah.
So I hope that those two assets that it was able to identify, it will be able to scan those two assets now. Okay. Yeah. So let's wait for the scan to get finished.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
So just to make it short, here are the machines and tags.
You have
As you
all
can see.
Azure tags on all the four. Show me
Yes,
the
and
last one.
Azure tags. Sorry?
I'm saying how many tags are there? Two tags you're putting, Azure and Azure resource, right?
Yes, to make sure I have two tags.
Okay, great. So
Okay,
tags are there, which is good.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next one. Go to the module, perimeter scan module.
Okay.
Okay. Target host. Yeah, review. Okay, let's wait here. Okay, no scalable assets match the selected connector details and tags are okay. It's still not able to detect. Just click OK. And tags are there. Still, it is not coming, right? That's okay. Let's first see whether your assets are getting scanned or not. Just close this. Refresh your browser. Refresh the browser. Go to assets on the same window. Search for assets. Search your assets. The last search your assets option. You see, now type the tags and see whether your assets are getting searched. Both the tags.
Both of them?
Both of them.
Okay.
Go to the bottom, click on search. This is where the trouble is. See, if these assets are not getting searched, then obviously perimeter scan or the external scanner would not be able to find them. So your assets are not getting searched. That's the challenge, which basically means your cloud connector service needs to be refreshed. So let's go to cloud connector service. Okay, let's select that service and click on run. Run connector. Yep. Yes. Okay.
And it stays like this forever. And I've deleted and add it
stays
again.
like
It
this.
stays, yes, stays like this forever.
It never says
If I
successfully.
test,
Mm-hmm.
not here. Where is the? Not here. Wait. Let me edit it. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Edit here. Okay. It was here. See?
Mm-hmm.
I've deleted like.
Connection is successful, which is okay. Click on tag and activation. Next step, which is tag and activation.
Yeah, put these two tags here.
So 2 tags I can see. Enable zero
Yep.
touch scan is also enabled.
And
Assign
also
tags.
here.
That's okay. That's
Also.
another thing. You don't need to put tags here. This is for application basically, but that's okay. Can you remove those tags for a moment from here?
Yeah.
Remove both the tags. Save it.
If I do a perimeter scan, it will show 4 assets here instead of 0. If I do here this scan right now, if I do this right now, it show 14. Look, if I do this, 4, no, instead of 0. See?
So it is able to identify here, but the status, why the status says queued all the time? Click on those 4 assets.
Okay. What am I missing? Inventory. So how come it shows 4 but it's nothing?
It also comes here because it has a query there. It says connectors.connector name and say assets which are searched using this connector. That query that you see in the box basically says that Qualys Azure connector, any asset that has been discovered by that connector. So something is not right with the connector here.
I can delete it and add again, but it takes 1 minute, but it's doing the same.
Yeah, I'm saying, see, from the configuration perspective, everything is right. Let's go back to the perimeter scan once again. Let's go to the asset search once again and see whether it will be able to search the assets. Go to VMDR. See, unless it is able to search the assets, obviously perimeter scan will not work.
Assets search.
Yeah, asset
right?
search. Yeah.
Exactly. So how can we solve this?
It is not resolving. Pop-up must be allowed. So please allow the pop-ups.
Should be here. No.
Pop-up blocker is blocking it. That's okay. Click on asset search. Okay, let's search for other things also. Scroll it down. Let's put some values in the other fields. DNS we can't put. Instance ID we can't put. EC2 instance. Azure VM. No. Operating system. Let's put the operating system.
equal with
containing.
containing.
Containing
Let's
and in the
say
view, click on view, and here you can put. Oh, it doesn't have.
maybe we can
Doesn't
put
have that
win.
button. Yeah, you
Like-
can put win.
Wait, like this.
Scroll
Should
it
I
down.
delete these ones?
No, text you need to put. Text has to be there. Okay, let's search for it.
Is it possible if I delete the connector and add it again, there will be a cache in assets with the last scan from previous connector? It
Yep, see,
didn't refresh?
there is a possibility. The challenge is we are working with a trial version. So cache issue could be there and we can't approach support. See, there are two things. A is following the right process and right steps. That's exactly what we are doing. And even though things are not working, then we can approach the support. Now, there is another thing to do this. Okay, you can search the assets through Scanner Appliance also. Go to Scanner Appliance. Let's try to search the asset from there. Go to Scanner Appliance.
This is
Under VMDR.
VMDR. Okay, application. Yeah, I forgot about it. So
All your VMs are up and running, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Scans. No. In applications. Here?
Yeah, appliance. Okay. Select this appliance. Now click on scan. We will use this appliance.
Where is it? Have actions?
Click on the top. You can see scan.
Here. Okay.
Scan.
Instead of external to use scan.
So click on new scan.
Yeah.
So here we also run perimeter scan from here. Cloud perimeter scan.
Yes, I think
but
I
we
know.
will use this appliance.
Yes, you're right. I've tried this
Directly
before.
go to scanner. Yeah.
Here, put Alex.
Yeah. Select that scanner appliance. Yeah.
But tags
now
or not
let's
tags?
put the. Now let's put the tag. Tag also and connector also.
Okay, connector also. Okay.
Now go to review and see whether it is able to find. No.
Okay, I have one more thing to ask you. Just give me 1 second. So just one second. So if I go to connectors, okay, because it's very simple to add it. Just 1 second. Okay, and I go for it, and I do.
See, the status should not be queued all the time. Status should always be up. That's the only thing that is disable.
Disable or delete? I can delete it.
Disable. Let's disable it. Don't delete it.
Disable. Yes. Now
disable
I want to see. I need to make sure the assets are not already. I mean to refresh the assets list, not to be there anymore. That's what I want. After this, So if I go to assets,
when you refresh, those entries will not disappear. Those entries will disappear. Automatically within 24 hours. 24 hours is the time frame for portal refresh. Anything that you do now will take 24 hours for those entries to disappear. So let's not do that. Let's enable this once again. Just give me 1 minute. Let me look at my screen. That's the difference. On my screen, it says completed successfully. The status of the connector is always completed. That's how the status should be, not in queued mode all the time. There is one more way. View assets in AI. Can you select that option?
Yes, view assets in AI. Let's see. I guess after I recreated like half an hour ago, maybe 1 hour, it didn't stay in queued. It didn't run anything on it, it's still showing the old assets from old connector.
So right now it doesn't show any assets.
Right now, no. But
okay.
If I create a new one, besides this one, if I create a new connector, shouldn't that one?
Create a new connector. See, we have no other option right now because we have verified everything. Your connector status should always be completed successfully. The connector status is queued. which is,
So-
which basically bothers me here. Because if
So
other
in-
participants go to their respective screen, they will all see is that completed successfully, active.
So I cannot create another one besides this and that new one search for the assets?
Yeah, you can create one more, create another connector,
It
but
will take
the
1
same
minute, just
process you
1
need to
minute. Yeah.
follow. Yeah,
Yeah,
create
it's,
another connector. Do you have your authentication
Yeah.
details, all information handy?
Yeah. That's why it's taking fast. It doesn't take too much. Just give me a second. Okay. Just
Select
go
polling period. Select polling period as 1 hour for a moment.
1 hour. Okay, let's give me app registration.
Yep.
App registration. 1 second, just 1 second. Okay. I found it. Let me copy paste the details. So application ID. Copy it. I put it here. Then director ID. Very fast. Put it here. Okay, authentication key gives 1 second to generate it. Okay, new client. Okay, generate add. Okay, I have the value. I'll put it here. Okay, subscription ID. 1 second. Subscriptions. Okay, I've copied. Let me paste it here. Okay, test connectivity. Okay, it's taking a little bit. Okay, it's working the test connectivity, right?
Next.
Oh, next. I put
Select-
here.
yeah.
Yes. Okay. Next. Tags. Do I need to add tags here?
Tag also. Tag is important.
Okay. Tags. Bam. Okay. Add tag. Okay. I have it here. Next. Though I don't need this.
No, don't do this. Enable scan custom configuration. Leave that part.
Okay.
Next.
This I don't
Next.
need.
No. Next.
Okay.
Create
Create
connector.
connector. Okay. It doesn't let me on the same ID, subscription ID.
Yeah.
Okay. It's fine.
You need to
Wait,
delete the previous one.
Yes.
Delete the previous one. That's okay.
Yes, okay, but it will take 24 hours to.
No, not 24 hours. We will select as soon as the connector is created. It will do the asset search. It will not take 24 hours. Delete it.
Delete.
Yeah.
Okay, create fast.
And while Alex is creating the connector, Vipin or Anand, whosoever I was working with, are you done with your scan? Is your scan completed?
Yeah, it's completed.
And you're able to see the results, positive results, vulnerabilities and all?
Yes.
Okay, which is great. Which means, so you followed all the steps and it worked well. Why it is not working in case of Alex? Because of the connector. Connector has something to do with it. And connector is an application which is managed in the backend. We really have nothing to do to troubleshoot connector, except for configuring it again and again. Okay. So
authentication key, subscription in just 1 second. Subscription almost done. Is done. Let's test the connectivity. Okay, connectivity. Okay. Close. Next. Bam. Add tags. Add tags. Everything fine. Next.
leave it.
This
Leave
not-
the setting as it is. Leave this as it is. Review. Create connector.
And now we have the connector. Okay. Now it's status
wait.
queued.
Wait for a minute at least.
Yes, we have 002 asset inventory, so no, nothing gets populated yet. It's good that we have to do this troubleshoot because we might have this kind of in production. We need to know how to solve this.
But typically this issue doesn't come in production. Production has some other issues that I'll talk about when the right time comes. Production has issues like host not alive, wherein your connectors or your appliances are not able to reach because of any connectivity issue that I was talking about, which is to make sure that you have all the ports and protocol open, firewall configuration done. Just give me 1 minute. I'm getting
Yeah,
an
I see now
important
it's
call
4
here.
and 10. 1 minute ago was 0, now it's 4 and 10. So at least it's doing something in behind, I guess, if it's this results 4 and 10.
That's the challenge here. The status of the connector is not changing to completed successfully, because of which the assets are not getting discovered. Now there is absolutely nothing that we can troubleshoot here, because connector is a PaaS application. You're not installing it on a machine, you're installing it in the portal, and it is just not getting completed. So this could be account specific issue, your trial specific issue. Now let's go to the asset search and see whether we are able to search for assets.
Sure.
Because the same thing is working perfectly fine for all other participants, only it is not working for you.
I know, I see.
It is not working for me as well.
Okay, let me check.
Same queued.
So if it says queued in your case also, then it is the same challenge.
Okay.
It has to be completed successfully.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe
same challenge.
tomorrow.
So for those who it says queued, it will not work. However, it doesn't mean that this is the end of it. This is just one piece that we are doing. We will move on to the next. We will do all of this through Virtual Scanner Appliance, and then we will do it through Cloud Agents, which is the most recent way of managing vulnerabilities using Qualys, which is what most of the customers are currently migrating to, and new customers are only using Cloud Agents. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. So your connector scan, you see the connector status shows completed successfully. That is why those assets were discovered. Now let's go to your VMDR scan where the perimeter scan is completed now. Or Alex, what you can do, whosoever is facing this issue, you can probably speak to Qualys technical support. Tell them that your connector status is not changing to successful. That is why you're not able to do any of those configurations. They will probably help you here. Yep. Go to scans. It is still running, not completed. Refresh the screen. Refresh the browser. You will not see a refresh button on this page.
Yeah.
It is still running, right? Do I
Yes,
have any participant for whom it is completed?
Yeah.
Okay. Who says okay, go back to the no, not here. Go back to your scan where the scan is running. Close this window.
Yeah, this is
Close
scan
this window
result.
also. Close this window also. For which service it says temporary unavailable. Okay. All
That's
right.
lab service.
Okay, no worries. Scan the, I'm sorry, refresh the browser once again. Okay, now click on the scan results and directly go to the view summary. Sorry, view results. Summary will just give you the summary of it. Just go to the result. So now this is for all the participants. If you have done all the configuration as I suggested, and if your connector status is successful, in that case, your perimeter scan will perfectly work fine. It will take a couple of minutes based on the number of assets that it has to scan, based on the configuration of the option profile or the vulnerabilities database that you have, and then it will show you the results. Now let's maximize it. Yep. Okay, this is how you read that report. So you can see the launch date, then active host and total host. Since Anand Anand added the tags and then quickly ran the scan. So by that time, it only was able to search for 2 hosts out of 3. So both the two hosts are able to scan here, and then scroll it down. It shows you the IP addresses of those hosts also. Since we are not using, they are not part of any domain, so you don't see DNS entries and anything. And then definitely it has been able to find some vulnerabilities on those hosts. A total of 39 vulnerabilities were identified. And out of 39, the vulnerabilities which, the severe vulnerabilities, if you see here, uh, 6 vulnerabilities are rated as severe, and then the remaining 33 vulnerabilities are nothing but information. So total of 39 vulnerabilities. When you scroll it down, you will see that report in chart basis. You see, and so this is how a report is presented in Qualys. However, we will see all of this information in our vulnerabilities dashboard. Once we are done with Cloud Agent and once we are done with all the configuration items, then we look at this information from consumer perspective. So this is where you see the detailed results for each VM, the vulnerability segregation. You can click on those arrows and then it will expand and show you the remaining information like that. So it shows you impact, solution, compliance, all that we will do when the right time comes. So this is how the report looks like. Okay, I'll take the control now and I'll show you the report that okay, so you can see my connector status says completed successfully. It should always be in this mode all the time. Then I'll navigate to the VMDR module. I'll navigate to scans. Here I see my perimeter scan. Now the other thing that will tell you whether the scan was successful or not is this radio button. If the radio button is green, it means the scan ran successfully. If the radio button is bang sign, it means there is some issue. So now if I click on it and if I click on view results, it always takes a couple of seconds to generate the results, depending on how many assets are there and how much data is there in the results. And then you can find the same from reports tab also. Okay, so now you can see the result is generated. It shows the launch date, total active host, and total host. So total host is what went into the scan job, and active host is those hosts who basically responded to the scan jobs. This type was scheduled, cloud perimeter scan, it is finished. External scanner. So for this job, this scanner appliance was used, which is 103.75.173.8. So the IP address of the scanner appliance will continue to change all the time because they use a lot of scanner appliance. So it will not be the same, which basically means that if you are trying to make an entry into the perimeter firewall of this IP address, thinking that next time the perimeter scan will be successful, it will not be the case. You will need to put the address space, and that address space is /24, which is there in your help section. Total duration, it took 11 minutes, 20 seconds. It was able to identify these IP addresses against that asset group. These are the two tags that I basically scanned against. And here's the vulnerability. In my case, it was able to identify a total of 78 vulnerabilities, out of which 14 vulnerabilities are of severe nature, and the remaining 64 vulnerabilities are more often information, which is good to know information that may result in a vulnerability in future if not taken care of. And 14 are actual vulnerabilities. Then I can see biggest categories of vulnerabilities for these 14 vulnerabilities. Then I show these vulnerabilities in different formats, the operating system's information, and for each asset, it shows the detailed result. So if I had 1,000 assets, then I would see detailed results for all those assets, which means the file will be a bit bigger. So I see the results of those assets, all of them results I see for the vulnerabilities. So that's how you get the results. Now this is the perimeter scan that we basically ran. Now, similar to perimeter scan from an external scanner appliance, Now that you have a virtual scanner appliance, you can also run a perimeter scan from a virtual scanner appliance. That is also available. So how do I run a perimeter scan from a virtual scanner appliance? The same process. I will click on Cloud Perimeter Scan. Now imagine that you don't have configured the connector. Connector is not configured in your case, or you do not have a connector configured, but you still want to run a perimeter scan. So you can also leverage your existing virtual scanner appliance to run a perimeter scan. So how will I run a perimeter scan? I will click on scan. I will click on scan. All the options will remain the same, which is Qualys recommended option profile, priorities 3, target host. I forgot to select Azure. Okay, rest will remain the same. In the target host, I will select the tags. Then in the scanner, instead of external, I will select my scanner appliance. So I'll make use of scanner appliance, and then rest of the information will remain the same. So it will just do a quick review. Give me a minute. Okay, now it's reviewing. So it shows me the same information that a total of assets that I identified is 4, out of which 3 assets will be scanned because it will not scan itself. It will not scan a scanner. And this is the scanner appliance that will now run the perimeter scan. So you can also run a perimeter scan like this. So I'm running a perimeter scan from the appliance now. Now, for those who were not able to run a scan through the connector, nothing to worry about. At least you've understood the process. Whenever your connector status starts to say as completed successfully, at that point in time, you can run the perimeter scan. It will perfectly work fine, provided you have clear line of sight from connector to your publicly exposed assets, which is on the NSG. Either the connector IP addresses should be whitelisted, or you can create a blanket whitelist rule, which is source any. And inside the VM firewall, either you will disable the firewall or you will create an inbound rule in the firewall whitelisting all IP address ranges of external connector appliances of Qualys. And then your reports, then the scan will run perfectly fine and you will see similar reports here. So unless you do it by yourself, you may not believe it, but this is how it happens because I've done it a number of times. Okay. Now, since this is a trial account, if there is anything that doesn't work as expected, all we can do is to connect with technical support to fix it. I'm to get that fixed. So this is one thing. Now let's move on to the appliance part and let's run some additional scans from the appliance today. So I want all of you to be on the appliance page and confirm whether your appliance status is showing as green, which is appliance is up and running. Appliance is active and up and running with 100% capacity.